Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking about the phrase, I'm bad at that. And I'm bringing this up because I hear this a lot, and I think it's time to address it. So, when we're taking inventory of our life, we know that there are things that we are really good at, and there are things that we are not really good at. And we've gotten accustomed to saying the phrase, I'm really bad at that, or I'm really bad at doing that, or I try to avoid that because I'm bad at it. And this, much like some of the other words we discussed, so the word try and the word can't, it does a lot of harm over the course of time. So if you're constantly telling yourself you're bad at it, not only are you giving yourself the excuse that, okay, well, I know that I'm bad at it, so I'm bad at it, so like that's that. I'm going to just keep being bad at it and own it that I'm bad at it and keep moving on. And you also get a chance to avoid ever confronting that thing. And I know that it can be really scary to sometimes confront something that we know that we are bad at. So when I think about my life and the things that I know that I'm good at and the things that I am working on, I think about the feelings that it brings up that I'm still working on those things. One thing that comes to mind very easily for me is having constant organization. And that could mean in terms of my home. It could mean in terms of my thoughts. It could mean in terms of like the things that I really want to do. Goals. I have notebooks. If you know me, you know I love notebooks. I love pens. In fact, it was so cute. This past birthday, several of my gifts from people were like little notebooks and pens. And like it was just so cute. I just loved it. It was just awesome. I love organization. I love the feeling it gives me. I love the peace it brings me. I love everything about it. I love the aesthetic of it. I love looking at things that are organized. You could say that I'm obsessed with organization. However, there's a very different relationship I have with organizing than dancing. Dancing, it is completely natural. It's easy. It never really quite feels like a puzzle when I'm dancing. It feels like I'm working hard at something, and it feels like I'm also enjoying all of it, the whole process of it. There's something very different in my skill set towards dance than my skill set towards organizing. When I organize, I'm thinking a lot. I'm thinking about the how, the why. I'm trying to picture it. I'm trying to zoom out, zoom in, think about products. I'm thinking about what did I say last time? Like if I'm thinking about organizing my thoughts, I know I wrote that down. Where did I write that down? And I can acknowledge that I've come a long way with my organization, and for that, I am proud of myself. And I can also acknowledge that there are still things that I feel are missing in my talents for organization. So it could be that I have a hard time slowing down enough to know future Chrissy is going to want to have this someplace. And like, I can look right here. I have this list on my notebook and it's all about my podcast ideas. This is a perfect example. So I have my list. This is 1 to 18 of different podcast ideas. And you're thinking, wow, that's great. Like she has a list and that's where everything goes. Yeah, that day, that week. And then if I flip back over here, I've got another list where it's like other ideas. And these ones aren't even in a linear order. They're just like blurbs on a thing with circles around them and squares. And then there's also brackets. And then if I flip the page over here, there's ideas that I've talked about and mentioned in other podcast episodes that I want to talk about. So therefore, they're on this list. But some of them have the episode that I referenced and then some of them don't. So you could see that for someone who is to organization that the way I am to dance, they might have a template. They might have color coding. Oh my gosh, like this could be like such excitement for them to organize. And let's not forget about the way that I text myself ideas as well. So if I were to scroll over the course of even just the last month, I would find little blurbs of myself talking to myself with ideas. So the next step, I think, would be to take all these ideas and write them down and come up with a system. And the system would be how Chrissy implements her ideas and keeps them organized. And then deeper from that would be, okay, all the subjects that are in this category would go here, and those would file in. And then all the subjects from this category would go here. Oh, it seems like you talk about words often. So let's have a category about all the podcast episodes that would be about words. So it's not that I'm not thinking about the next next steps. It's that it has something to do with the flowing of busyness, and it just keeps flowing and it keeps flowing. And my levels of priority aren't as important to this as maybe getting the episode up and loaded and ready for you to listen to. So we all know there's only so many hours in the day, and we do what we prioritize. We do what we value. What is important to us, we change. And the more I find that this is annoying for me, the more I will attend to it and fix it and make it better and no longer be bad at it. Though me, because I've done so much work on myself, I don't really say stuff like that to myself. I would never say like, oh, Chrissy, you're so bad at. I would say this: you have so many ideas. Look at you go. Maybe that's the Leo in me, or maybe that's the fifth dimension, the person who has worked hard on reflection and awareness saying that. So when I think about when I get to this, when I get to rearranging it and working through it, it's going to be when I have kind of like gotten annoyed so much with it and I want a change. And that can be seen in my closet. My closet is beautiful. It's a whole room and it's organized and there's baskets for everything and it's color coded and I love it. And I have a system now and it's kind of easy. It feels to me like not exactly like the way dance feels to me, but very close to it. So when we create systems for things and when we value things, that's when we get to change the way we view the way that we are potentially bad at something. So I'm going to share with you now, since I've shared enough about myself, I'm going to share with you how I hear this. I hear this in terms of, oh, I'm bad at dancing, or I'm bad at picking outfits for dance, or I'm bad at getting to class on time, or I'm bad at making room for dance in my schedule, or I'm really bad at memory, or I'm really bad at balancing in heels, or I'm really bad at balance. If I had $1 for every time I heard that phrase, man, I don't know. And we've done a lot of work as a dance community in reframing and rephrasing the way we speak to the room, the group, and also ourselves. Because as you heard me talk about before, like that whole misery loves company idea, like people fester off of it. Oh, like, oh, you're bad at memory? Oh, I am too. I'm really bad at it. Like, oh, you're really bad at that? I'm bad at balance. And it's kind of like this fun little girl game of like who has the most things they're bad at instead of who has the most things that they're good at, who has the most things that they're working on, who has not even the most, who has something that they're working really hard on and they've seen progress with, who has something that they're paying attention to every day and they're making it a priority to work on it. And when we say I'm bad at it, it's like, oh, well, my work's done here. I'm bad at it. I've accepted it. It's a false acceptance. And the acceptance is what I know that I'm bad at it. So that's it. When I get around to working on it, I'll get around to working on it. So when we know that we are working on something that we think we are bad at, we get to implement a timeline. So it's true that you can be a dancer and recognize, like, I'm also not trying to tell you to like falsify the truth. For instance, there are some things that I wish to be better at in dance. I would love to be able to do 16 pirouettes. Like, I think that would be so cool. Am I bad at pirouettes though? No. And I know that from my other students, like, they're like, I'm really bad at flexibility. Like, do they want to be better at flexibility? Yes. It's almost like a, hey, I just want you to know that I'm bad at this and I know that you're about to see it. And I want you to know that I already know that I'm bad at it. So like, we don't even have to have the conversation of it. Because when we see ourselves as bad at something, we see it as a weakness in ourselves. It can feel embarrassing. It can feel shameful. I mean, I can picture it, okay? So you're this new student. You're doing something you know that you're bad at, flexibility. But you know what's funny about that is that person who's bad at flexibility could have just been coming off of like a serious injury with maybe she pulled her hamstring. And so maybe she's healing that wound and is just taking her notch of flexibility down to preserve her leg. So, all right, side note, but going back into it now. So maybe the idea is, okay, I'm this student, I'm bad at flexibility, I'm in the class. I just want my instructor to know that, like, don't worry, I know I'm bad at this too. Like, don't worry, you don't even have to tell me. So it's almost like I'm gonna save you from this conversation that you're gonna have with me about how bad I am at this. It's kind of like, I just want everyone to know, like, I'm bad at this, so like, don't worry, I know. Well, what does that do? What is that protecting us from? Yeah, like it's acknowledging a weakness. I think that's lovely. I think it's so good to be able to acknowledge a weakness, for sure. And I think that we learn from the way that we talk to ourselves. It's just hands down. I mean, it's science. It's not even a thought. It's been proven at this point. Joe Dispenza talks about it. There's a lot of mindful coaches that talk about this often, and you're speaking yourself into existence all the time. So when you're speaking yourself, I'm bad at this, well, you get to be bad at it then. Well, there you go. You're bad at it. When you speak something like, this feels uncomfortable for me, and I haven't really gotten a chance to work on my flexibility in a while, and I'm working on it right now. It's just different energy. It holds different energy. Yes, it still might be an excuse, because I just told you a beautiful excuse. When this, and I'm pointing to my little notebook, when this gets uncomfortable enough, I'm gonna attend to it and make it more organized. So isn't my excuse then, why not now? Time, is time my excuse? Priority, I would say priority is probably my excuse here. It's that I haven't gotten fed up with it enough. You can tell though, I'm a little fed up with it. I told you about all the lists and like the categories and all that. And maybe what I need is a step in between that. And the step in between that is usually going to be where the real help can come in. So in order to do this, the way I visualize doing it, it's how. So if we can figure out how to answer how, we can walk ourselves through obstacles. And it's funny because I didn't intend on making the excuse that I just did as my example. And I'm also so glad I did, because now I can walk you through and further prove my point about this. Another reason how this podcast can be so divine. When we say that we are bad at something, or I guess in my case, when I tell myself that I'm working on something, or I am going to get around to that when it is a deep burden of mine, I'm making an excuse, and the excuse is telling me, it's okay, we'll get to that. And I'm saying that when it gets bad enough, I'll attend to it then. I'm going to keep telling myself I'm working on it. And you might continue to say, I'm working on it. And you might also continue to say, I'm bad at it. In a way, they're all synonyms. And the reason why we're working on it is because we haven't figured out the how. The how is the biggest obstacle because it's preventing you from it being more manageable. Flexibility? Okay, well, I understand I want to have flexibility. Great. How? Well, is it going to class? What is the exact outline? I understand I want to be more organized with my thoughts. Well, what is the how? Making lists on a template and putting it into Excel? How? And if we keep going deeper, we get to really know the how, because the how is going to be the repeated obstacle that you continually tell yourself. So my continuous excuse is, well, you're not really a master at Excel. And that's where something like this would really take off. You haven't figured out the tips and tricks of the program to make this an easy experience for you, to make it have a lower barrier of entry so that maybe you could include this as part of your routine. Part of me is still saying, like, some of these things are going to be part of your identity and your personality. And like a type B person who is bad at X, Y, and Z, well, are they really going to go through extreme efforts to be like the type A person? And at which point are they not owning their own personality? So here I am stepping into my Socratic seminar again, because I think what happens with me is I can always find the other alternative argument. So I'm sitting here and I am really gaining deeper insight as I'm talking to you about this, because, all right, let's say I become a master at Excel. I wonder, am I still going to do this? Knowing that I'm a pen and paper person, as I've discussed with you already. Maybe it's, well, then I think about something else. This is interesting. So back in the day, when I would plan my workshops for the studio, I would look at dates and I would get really confused with like, okay, what is this? And I was doing it on some type of like system that was still pen and paper. And then what happened was I started using Post-it notes. And if you know me, I love Post-it notes. I started using Post-it notes because you can like put something down and then you can like easily move it. And that became my hack for doing something a little bit more organized. And that helped me through that one problem. And that is something that I do now very frequently, very easily, probably with the same ease of dance. On top of that now, I have a secondary system to that, which is like an online thing through Canva. And I'm pretty well versed at Canva. And yeah, I think I figured it out. So I wonder if it's the ease of the program. So in other words, let me paint the picture for you. So you're trying to improve your flexibility and you figure out the how. The how is go to this many classes and stretch this often and you'll improve your flexibility. Well, if you had that roadmap and you trusted it, would you do it? And let's say that the barrier of entry was just like low, like you already had a membership at the studio, so you were already going. All you needed to do was pay attention a little bit more during this part of the class and attend maybe this many more classes, like maybe 3 more classes than you would normally do a month to see some really great results. Would you do it? Or would you stop yourself because you didn't believe that you could do it? Or would you stop yourself because of the pain of going through it? Because there is going to be pain when you are adapting into something. For example, flexibility. I went through this really weird time where I powerlifted to try to help heal my knee. Anyway, I needed surgery anyway, so it didn't really do what it did, but it did help. And I was powerlifting, and I realized after like 8 months of powerlifting, I was like, whoa, I like decreased my flexibility like a lot. And it was kind of sad. I was like, oh no, what happened? What did I do? And so I got a flexibility coach. It was actually pretty cool how I got him as my coach because he's a flexibility coach for like some celebrities out there like Lizzo. So here I would be like in this very same room that I'm in with you right now. And he would be over there and I would be crying in my flexibility and it would hurt a lot. Like it would be very painful and it improved. And that was great. And it took some constant action and it became something that I was doing like, okay, this is my appointment with my coach and I'm going to attend it and go to it and do it. And then I trust him because he's been doing this and that's how I'm going to improve. So for you, when you're thinking about, oh, I'm so bad at flexibility, do you want to continue to just be bad at it or do you want to do something about it? Do you want to make the change and create the roadmap? So I think I have a really fun opportunity with you here, given the fact that I just ousted myself to you, basically, that I have a opportunity to make a really cool system for this. And we're going to hold each other accountable. So I am going to work on Excel and maybe phone a friend if I need help. And I'm going to come up with a really cool design of how these episodes are going to be organized in terms of my ideas that are coming through. My ideas come through on the daily, and that's why it could be quite tricky for me to keep up with. So I am going to develop a system, even if it is I have a notebook or a page. I'm going to actually sit down and think about it and give myself designated time for it so that I am no longer going to say, well, I'm working on that. Now it's something that I am working on and improving on and no longer bad at. And for the record, I don't think you're bad at flexibility and I don't think I'm bad at this. And obviously, you know, I'm using flexibility as an example. So you can please insert any example here. It could be the ones that we talked about in the beginning of the episode. I think I just went off with flexibility because it just makes a lot of sense in this example. So yeah, I don't think that you're bad. I cannot agree with you that you are bad at flexibility. 1, I haven't assessed it. 2, I don't know that we are good at things when we've never done them. So for example, when I think about skills that I do that are not skills that I've learned, I think about sewing. And yeah, I can put some thread on a needle and I can put it in and out. And I can sew together maybe a strap back onto a bra. How great am I at a sewing machine? I'm really bad at it. Really bad at it. I've never even done it. So like, yeah, I'm bad at it. So it's important to understand like where you're starting. Where are you starting with flexibility? Where are you starting with dance? Are you actually bad at it or have you never done it before? Are you actually bad at it? Or are you working on it and you need help finding a solution so that you can learn your how, conquer your obstacle, and go through it? So I haven't done a podcast episode on this just yet. We have been talking about the idea of failure at the studio. And it's kind of like a funny word to me because 1, I don't believe in the word failure. And 2, there's just a lot for me to dissect. And something I do want to say about the word failure that has come up with me like really researching it and thinking about it is there's an idea of desensitizing the word. And that's actually what got me started, because I've been reading a book and I also heard this girl on Instagram and she was like, yeah, my millionaire parents, they taught me to discuss failures openly every day, find my failure within the day and then move through it. And I just found that kind of interesting, like to use the word failure like that so easily. And I think that can be done when we think about the word bad. I'm bad at this. And while I don't like using that phrase, I'm bad at this, so I think it falsifies a meaning, and I don't think the person saying it is acknowledging what we are now acknowledging right now, which is all this depth that we now have discussed. When they're saying I'm bad at it, they're using it more in terms of like what I was saying in the beginning of the episode. I'm excusing myself from it and I'm moving through it. I'm owning it, like I'm bad at it, and that's it. And the way that we are talking about it right now is as if it's more intentional and it's more insightful. It's giving us more insight when we say that word, that phrase, versus when we say it as if to be like, I'm done with it, I'm moving on. Oh, I'm bad at organization, moving on. I didn't get to give myself a moment with, oh, well, wait, hold on. Let me listen to what I just said. I just said I'm bad at that. Why am I saying that? What does that mean? What am I holding on to? What am I not releasing? What am I excusing myself of? All of that work is what gets us to be higher operating humans. I think it's also important to know that being bad at something is not a permanent thing. So when I shared with you that my flexibility got a little inflexible, it was a moment in time. I was able to work through it. Right now, I'm taking care of my knees. It's a moment in time. I'm working through it. Right now for you, you might be brand new to heels dance, so you might be working on your balance. And your balance might need some work. You might need to know how to work through it. A really great example of this can be seen so easily through a photo. Have you ever gotten a photo of yourself and you're just like, wow, either A, that just doesn't look like me, B, who dat? 3, ooh, girl, like hold your posture, like tilt your head, or something that would allow you to appear as you really truly feel like you are represented in the real life. And that can get down a whole path of body dysmorphia. And I'm not going to touch on that because I'm not an expert on that. And I do want to acknowledge, though, that that's like a whole other thing. So right now I'm talking about when you're working on your body image and you're not working on it in a clinical way, because I want to be very careful with how I talk about this right now. I think when you look at yourself, you can like, maybe you're taking a photo and you're kind of like this, and then you're like, okay, if I went like that, like the camera would have captured me just like a little bit better. I feel like I was just using this as like an example. And now I'm like, I may have gone down a rabbit hole with this. But for the sake of understanding that bad isn't a permanent thing, we can understand how we've all had a maybe not so great photo. We can all understand that we've had maybe some food that is normally great, but maybe it just tastes not good. Like we've had moments where bad is not permanent. So we get to replace the word bad. We can replace it with I'm working on. We can replace it with I'm in the process of. We can replace it with I haven't learned how to yet. We can replace it with I'm in the early stages of improving my XYZ. And we don't need to go there because as you just saw, me even saying like I'm working on this is getting me to the same place, maybe even faster than when we acknowledge like I'm bad at. Because don't forget, when we're saying I'm bad at, we could be saying I'm bad at it and excusing yourself from ever doing it. So this really is about your ownership towards the things that you really want to call into your life. And if you're okay being bad at it and just moving along from it, then disregard this episode. And if you're like me and you're always trying to improve and figure out and know yourself deeper and want more for your life, then think about it in these ways. And here are just a couple questions to aid you through this next week while you're kind of dissecting these things. So 1, you can ask yourself, okay, what is it that is my biggest obstacle with this? Figure that out and maybe do some journaling on that. How can I fix that? Do I need an accountability partner? Do I need to put something into my schedule? Question 2 is how am I going to implement what I just said. So if it's accountability, how do I implement that? For me, it's going to be I get to figure out one little block in my schedule and I'm going to think about it during that time. How can I overcome this weird listy thing and get better at organizing my thoughts? Which might help me on the days that I'm filming, because oftentimes when I'm about to film, I'm like, all right, which one of these ideas can I talk about today? And I already know myself once I'm in a mode of like, I want to talk about this. Like today I wanted to talk about this. Why? Because I heard this a lot last week. I'm bad at. So I was like, ooh, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me, just the same as the word can't is. And I wanted to think about it in terms of helping others, obviously, and also to check myself, because you know me and you know what I stand for. And I believe that checking yourself is one of the greatest ways for growth. If you can allow yourself to be checked, then you're like stepping yourself outside your body, right? Looking back at yourself and saying like, girl, why does this bother you so much? What does this word mean? So that's what I'm going to do. And then the last step would be, so once you implement it, how can you make it part of your routine and in your systems? And so if it's flexibility and you figured out how, okay, you got to go to more classes. You figured out, all right, well, how can I implement this in my routine right now? All right, well, I'm going to end up going to the Tuesday, 7 p.m. class, which is going to be tonight. And how do I make sure that I stay on top of it? Well, I'm going to include it in every other week. Put it in your calendar, make an appointment for it, and make sure that you get to your goal that way. For me, I'm going to sit down with this and I'm going to make my plans accordingly. And then the last step would be to just track your progress with it. So to understand like, okay, well, it is a work in progress. We are in the early stages we are getting to improve on something. So we want to allot time for it. And then we also want to double check. So I'm going to check back in with myself and I'm going to say, okay, well, was that new system or that new hack, did that help or did it make it worse? And then we adjust accordingly. So I am so excited for you to start changing the language that you say to yourself on the daily and having more meaning behind the words that you have, because I know that it has helped my life a lot, being more intentional with what I'm thinking, what I'm reflecting on, and how I'm choosing to grow from it. So if this was at all helpful for you, I would absolutely love to ask you for a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.